Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast, and good morning to those following from the West Coast and the Central Time Zone. Those following from Israel, from Europe, and parts abroad, we want to wish you a good evening. We have the opportunity to hear from Major General Nadav Padan today. An assessment, now that we're 10 days after the ceasefire in Iran, that we're looking at some very, very significant news potentially in Gaza, whether it's a ceasefire or not. Prime Minister Netanyahu will be leaving for Washington. That's something that could be happening in the next day or two. And then, of course, what we're hearing in Syria, what we're hearing in Lebanon, and parts across the Middle East. And Major General Padan, if you can share with us your perspective, your context and analysis of what's happening in all of the above.
So actually, I can speak about 5 to 6 hours about each component of this system, but I'll try to go very briefly from Iran through Syria and Lebanon, and then speaks a bit about what's going on right now in Gaza and about the phase ceasefire agreement that on the table right now. So when it comes to Iran, I think that generally speaking, the Iranian got the message. They are in a process of damage assessment, I will say, when the main goal is to survive. I mean, for the regime to survive. So the way sometimes we calculate things by trying to understand exactly what happened in Fordo, and if we won like 3 months or 3 years, this is not a question. The Iranian regime are dealing with its survival, and its survival are related not only to the nuclear facility, but to the spirit of the people of Iran, the ability to stabilize the economy, the struggle with sanction and a lot of pressure, especially from the West over the years. So when the Iranians are coming to the negotiation table, and they are for Europe, in Italy, speaking directly, and through a third party with the US and Israel, by the way, they have in mind different things than what the damages in Fordo or in Natanz, which is important, but it's not the main focus. The main focus is the survival and the stability of the regime. And what I have on the table is tense between their pride of keeping the nuclear program, that declaring that they won, and delivering those messages to the people of Iran, not to the US and to Israel, but to the people of Iran. And packages in a way that they can open the gate to the economy of the West, reduce the amount of sanction, open their economy agreement with West Europe and even with the US. And the agreement that the American or the negotiation group that built from American and European can achieve is kind of a agreement that said the Iranian will reduce or put in postpones the nuclear facility or program without declare it, and in the other end reduce the sanction and open their economy to the West, and by that create a stability at the Middle East as a whole. From the Israeli perspective, there is 2 other things that are very important. Is that the Iranian will stop the support and pressure on Israel by proxies and terror support all over the Middle East and Africa. So we want the Iranian force to change the proxy program, which is quite happening without agreement, by pressure. I mean, they cannot support the Hezbollah like they used to. They cannot support the Houthis like they used to for many reasons. When I'll speak about Lebanon in a second, we can say a word about it. But Israel's interest in stopping the nuclear program, stopping the ballistic missile program that could carry weapons all over the Middle East and specifically in Israel, and reduce the proxy terror support of the Iran. And I mean, we should be very optimistic about it, because if we compare the situation of Iran today to the place they were before the operation, before the 12 days war, we are definitely in better situation, definitely. And you can see the motivation to go to the negotiation. They come with different kind of attitude, which is give us a lot of optimism about the result that we and the agreement that we can achieve. When it comes to Syria, first of all, the Iranians are trying, parallel to everything that happened, to find crack at the stability in Syria and push the Shia militia forward in Syria without success. But you could see that Israel attacked a group of Iranian supporters in Syria the last few days, twice, by the way. Syria struggling with the stability of the regime as well. I could say that Ahmad al-Shara, what we call Jolani, and to the people that forgot what the meaning of Jolani comes from Jolan in Arabic, which is related to the Golan Heights. So we don't use this Jolani name anymore, which have a meaning for us and for the Western world. It's returned to his real name, Ahmad al-Shara, and he published a constitution that stayed in Syria till 2013, which is, from our perspective and from the Western eye perspective, it's a pretty good constitution that speaks about peace, about stability, about economy. He struggled with humanitarian and economic crisis. We have to remember that there is 16 million Syrians that need aid. We have 7 million that entirely displaced. We have almost 5 million refugees abroad. While the GDP growth are 1.2 something, less than 1.3%. It's terrible situation, and it's got a lot of support. And the people that keep Ahmed al-Shara, which used to be Jolani, in place is the support of the US, Turkey, and Qatar, that already declared that they will launch a 7 billion project in Syria. The support of Britain, and even Saudi and Qatar, that paying salaries to the system of Jolani, of Shara, the last almost 2 months. Having said that, and creating stability, is still fighting, trying to recruit the minorities, trying to recruit the Druze, the part of the Alawis, even the SDF, the Free Army of Syria that fought ISIS and fought him, kind of signed an agreement with him, kind of non-military agreement. They didn't fully become part of the regime, but they declared that they will stop fighting it and try to help him stabilize himself. When it comes to the party that got the support of the US, like the Kurds and the SDF that I mentioned, they are moving forward toward the regime. So there is no fight at the east north part of Syria right now, because the Kurd and Jolani and al-Shara signed kind of ceasefire agreement, and there is a process of stabilization in Syria, which is good. And from the Israeli perspective, we're trying to push Syria and Jolani to some kind of agreement in Israel, with Israel, that will be similar to the Abraham Accord, or could be part of the Abraham Accord movement or agreements. And that's good. Again, under a lot of pressure, mainly economic pressure of the US, and the situation in Syria that doesn't give them any other option. They don't have military option to challenge Israel. and they got a lot of humanitarian economic needs. And therefore, they're moving forward toward those agreements. Having said that, we should remind ourselves and remember that, yes, they declare that they're willing to sign agreement with Israel, but their ideologic is a radical Islam ideology that doesn't see the existence of Israel. From this ideology, they have to free Jerusalem, Medina, and all the area of the Islam. So you could see that although their ideology speaks about releasing Medina, Saudi Arabia, that hosts the city, supporting them with salaries. So there is radical religious declaration, and there is realpolitik. And the realpolitik forced Syria to getting closer and closer to the West, which is pretty good for us. And it's a very positive movement. When it comes to Lebanon, really, I don't remember discussion like we have in Lebanon today for the last 30 years, even more. It brings us back to the discussion we had with the Christian during the time of the good fence. So you can see that when it comes to Lebanon, there is a lot of pressure of Hezbollah to disarm. Hezbollah is in a very, I would say, the worst situation it was over the last 25 years. There is military pressure from the Israeli side on one hand, and $1 million economy offer from Europe and the US on the other. And that gives the government of Lebanon the ability to pull pressure toward Hezbollah. But having said that, Hezbollah still the biggest and the strongest force in Lebanon. Not south to the Litani River, maybe, but in all the other places. And to my understanding, Hezbollah are not, freely volunteer to disarm, not under pressure, but maybe with this kind of movement, slowly but surely, the government of Lebanon, with the help of the US, Europe, and Israel, will take control. And it's very, very fragile kind of movement because Lebanon, like that, could go back to the civil war. The minority are not trusting each other. Even the Druze and the Christian are not trusting each other. That are part of the November 14 agreement. So again, it's a very, very positive movement in Lebanon that could lead us to a different situation. And maybe, it's not wrong to dream about Abraham Accord with Lebanon as well, even in that case, because we are sharing border, kind of a peace agreement. We have this paper ready from the time of the good fence. Moving south to Gaza. So since the last operation, and mainly since the operation in Iran ended, we move our forces, our focus from Iran, from Lebanon and Syria to Gaza. So we're operating right now in Gaza with 5 divisions. And the strongest division of the IDF, including 162, 36, 98, 99, and Gaza division, there is a lot of pressure, a lot of military pressure toward Gaza Strip. The IDF control more or less 65% of the area. And the only reason that we're not taking over all the other areas are divided to 2. One is that we declare that we'll allow kind of refugee camp at the Moasi area, the southwest part of Gaza Strip, and we're not getting into this area. And the other, which is the main reason, is that we still have 50 hostages, and 20 of them we really want to believe that are alive. And that's limited our ability to use our force. So what we're dealing in Gaza, generally speaking, is not a war in in traditional terms. It's not that there is like lines of battalion of Hezbollah or the Islamic Jihad and stand in front of the IDF and fighting us from getting wherever we want to go. A battalion today in Gaza Strip could drive and go wherever you want to go. What we're dealing with is guerrilla and terror attack, mainly terror attack. So the idea of control the neighborhood of Khan Younis or Gaza City, they hold the building, and from the ruined building, from those hill of cement, and from what left from the subterranean system of Hezbollah, they're getting out two terrorists with RPG or with IED, improvised explosive devices, attack our forces, killing one soldier or two soldiers and running away, or the IDF are able to kill them while trying to run away. And this situation will continue as long as we're going to stay there. The mission for the IDF to destroy Hamas as a military of terror, already been achieved a few months ago, almost a year ago. And what we're dealing right now is the remains of terrorists that will stay there forever. And maybe the battle of destroying Hamas as a military of terror going to end somewhere at the end of the year, to my belief. But the war against those terror radical group of the Muslim Brotherhood will continue. Continue in Judea and Samaria, like it continued all over the years, even after the war in 2002. And it will continue in Gaza. So we have to make sure that Hamas is not in control, is not the one that government the Gaza Strip, and the IDF have some kind of freedom of operation, like we have in Judea and Samaria, or even in Lebanon, south to the Litani River. The IDF are attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon every day. And we should have the same kind of freedom of operation in Gaza Strip, because no matter what going to be the agreement, this idea of radical Islam, this idea of radical Muslim Brotherhood terrorist movement will stay, and we'll have to, unfortunately, keep fighting it, while making sure, as I mentioned, that Hamas is not in control. And all the hostages, till the last one of them, the ones that are still alive and the bodies, are released. Right now, we are negotiating kind of a phase ceasefire, a hostage release deal, which speaks about kind of adopting the American offer to have a 60-day of ceasefire while releasing 10 hostages that are alive and another 18 bodies, and using the 60-day to speak about the next phase, the next stage to release all the other. I have to speak or to say two words about this agreement. First of all, for the families from the people of Israel to get back 10 hostages that are still alive and 80 bodies, the whole world. From that humanitarian perspective, it's dramatic. But from strategic perspective, it will take us nowhere. If after 60 days, we'll still have hostages, 10 of them that are still alive, and bodies in Gaza Strip, from strategic perspective, will be at the same situation that we are today before the agreement. The only thing that's going to happen during the 60 days is that the Hamas could, rebuild itself, get ready, reorganize itself, and so on and so on. And the idea of probably going to have to fight is line back to the places that we're holding today, the corridor of Netzarim, what got the nickname Be'eri Corridor, the Philadelphia Corridor, and the corridor that led to the humanitarian aid that run by the IDF and the American company. And if somebody have in mind, all those pro-Palestinian groups that think that the Hamas cares about the Palestinian. He could see what the Hamas are doing to this humanitarian aid. By the way, 2 Americans got severely wounded a few days ago from hand grenade. By the way, Iranian hand grenade that been thrown to the humanitarian aid center, and then those terrorists ran into the humanitarian area with cached under the people, took them as a human shield. The Hamas could not care less about the people of Gaza Strip. It cares about his survival, and we should move forward with a deal that speaks about release all the hostages and getting kind of ceasefire, which is equivalent to declaration of the end of the war, if you will. As I mentioned, it's not the end of the war; it's the end of the campaign. The war will continue, and to have that, from the Israeli perspective, we have to achieve 3 goals. First is to release all the hostages, that's obvious. Second is to make sure that the Hamas accept to withdraw from leading Gaza Strip. To create that, we have to create substitutions. Palestinian substitution with support of moderate Arab and the West. And we're not there yet. We're not there yet for many reasons. Some of the reasons, political reasons within Israel. I don't want to get into it. And Hamas are not ready. Definitely, we got to this kind of a phase ceasefire agreement because of the military pressure from one hand, and American pressure, especially the pressure of President Trump at the other end. Netanyahu will leave soon when he solves his political issues in Israel to Washington. To my belief, I don't know it for certain, but to my belief, there will be no statement or no press conference in this visit because they won't be ready for it. The gap is still big between Hamas and Israel. The Israeli delegation and the negotiating delegation has deposed for Qatar a few hours ago. I think because of the pressure and because both sides strategically want to have this agreement, we'll reach to the agreement. Not in the next 2 days, 3 days. We'll get a phased ceasefire agreement in a few days. And then there's going to be this declaration and celebration and press conference. So if I have to wrap it up, we are in very positive movement in Iran, Lebanon, and Syria, which is not stable, and it's not, it's not stable country and regime that it's only about their decision and we're moving forward. It's a complicated system with a lot of component. While al-Jolani are moving forward with the agreement, is still fighting ISIL and old supporter of Assad regime that's still fighting. I mean, when I'm saying still fighting, just opening a small window, during the last few days, there were more than 100 attacks, including bombs and suicide bomber within the city in Syria. It's not that it's a small group. It's few thousand of militants that fighting the regime. So yes, there is a very positive movement in all those area of the north, Iran, Syria, Lebanon. In Gaza Strip, we are in kind of stuck. Hopefully, the ceasefire agreement will release part of the hostages, and hopefully, it will lead us to the agreement that could, end the war or end this battle, and allow us to continue the war, which makes sure that Hamas is not in control anymore.
Major General Padan, thank you. If we could ask you a number of questions. In Iran, we hear that there's a very strong movement of the Basij and others arresting, murdering potential citizens who've spoken out against the regime. What do you hear on the ground? Is right now the focus of the regime to get control of the population and prevent potential uprising?
First of all, they are in kind of embarrassment. They lost control for a few days. And part of the Israeli strike were targeting those Basil headquarters and mainly in Tehran. And they were very, they were surprised and embarrassed from the fact that Hamas, that the Mossad was so involved inside Tehran in Iran. And nowadays they are shooting 360 degrees. They don't understand where to go. So there is a lot of arrests at the Jewish community in Iran, in those areas that mark and they were supposed to be, or in the eyes of the regime, or part of the opposition. So they're doing a lot of arrests to make sure that the regime is stabilized and no one take advantage of the situation right now and try to move forward with protest and pushing the regime out. Some of the operations that they launch are very hysteric, not kind of focused, sophisticated operation, and it will take time for the besieged to feel in control again. And, you know, we have to remind ourselves we're speaking about huge country of over 80 million. Some say over 90 million, because there is areas of the mountain that nobody knows exactly how many people live there. But it's somewhere between 90 to 80 million people. So it's a huge country. The control and those operations of the Basils start at the main cities, and then from there spread to the areas that's supposed to be part of the opposition. They didn't reach to all the places. I mean, the Yazidis area close to the border with Pakistan are still kind of having their own militia, and nobody come close to them. But yes, the regime launched a lot of operation, try to stabilize things, trying to be in control. They're pretty hysteric from the situation, what happened to them during the 12-day war.
A question regarding Lebanon. We saw a report that said 4,000 Hezbollah were eliminated, 2,000 gave up their arms after the elimination of Nasrallah. There's still 60,000 members of Hezbollah. You mentioned that they're still the strongest group in Lebanon. If the government, whether it's a combination of the Christians, the Sunni Muslims, etc., would want to try to disarm the Hezbollah, is that something that's even possible with 60,000 members of Hezbollah?
I don't think it's going to be easy. Again, the pressure on Hezbollah come from a lot of component of this system. First of all, they have no charismatic leadership right now, no one to follow. There is no one like Nasrallah that could, lift the motivation of the Shia movement inside Lebanon. They get no salaries. The routes from Iran through Iraq, Syria to Lebanon been cut, and Israel destroyed the Shia bank inside Lebanon during the war. It's all part of the target that been attacked during the war, and they get no salary. They have no food to put on the table. So when you speak about the Shia movement, there is group that are very radical, no matter what. Even without food, they'll keep supporting the agenda and the ideology of Hezbollah. And there is other that are part of the Shia. Yes, they're part of this minority, but they are not that religious, and they are not that there for the salary. They're there for other thing, and their spirit is not in the highest place, I would say, right now. So Hezbollah is suffering. But as I said before, it's not that in front of Hezbollah there is like a stable, very organized military and force that could push them out. The Lebanese army cannot deal, even today, with Hezbollah, especially not north to the Litani River. It should be dig bit by bit with roots and sticks, carrots and sticks, I would say. From one hand, to offer them or put some light at the end of the tunnel of those young people, offer them economic opportunities, and at the other end, make sure that with the support of the U.S. and Israel, the Lebanese army have the brave and the guts to deal with those source of center of Hezbollah, like area of Baalbek and others. Right now, you won't see Lebanese army getting to the center of Baalbek, to the center of the Shia army there. And they have to have support of Europe and the US and Israel to do so. So, as I mentioned, the movement, it's a positive movement right now. We're in the right direction, but it's what happened in a day.
And then the next question is associated with Iran. That 12-day war where you had Israeli aircraft, flying back and forth, being refueled, we did not lose one pilot. We didn't lose one plane. Looking back at that, is that something that you could even call in the realm of miraculous? I mean, we look at how many soldiers we're losing in Gaza each and every week. When you look at what happened in Iran, it's, to me, is looking at it as a non-military person, it's quite astounding.
So there is kind of, it's miraculous, but it's also a well-planned operation run by the Air Force of Israel and the Mossad. You have to remember that it's not that we destroyed three S-300 anti-aircraft battery, and from there the pilot flew freely over Iran and over Tehran. It wasn't this highway that been described at the news. The Air Force fought every day to be able to fly over Iran, and it's because of technology advantage, and it's more because of operational advantage and good plans. And when it comes to good plans and operational advantage and technology advantage, we have to remember that the Iranians are not that stupid. And both sides are learning the operation, learning this war, and learning what should be the next build the force kind of program to make sure that it won't happen again from the Iranian side. And in the Israeli side, we have to understand that the Iranians are doing those kind of processes right now, and we have to be ready differently to the next operation. And Israel already in kind of process of planning, getting ready to deal with the Iranian at the next phase, when they'll have different kind of system, different kind of understanding of what we did to them operationally. So the ability of the plane, the jet, to fly over Iran and bomb the center of Tehran, it's technology, but it's also military planning. If the Iranian will know exactly what we did to them, they will be able to block it. And as you could see, they didn't lose their all of anti-aircraft ability. They took down drones. So, and yes, thank God all the pilots came back. I must tell you, when the IDF, especially the Air Force, took the decision to launch this operation, we had in mind an option that we're going to lose pilot. It was part of the plans. Now, we didn't plan to lose pilot, but it was part of the risk that the IDF took when it launched those operations. So yes, it's technology, operational planning, and help of God.
Then the other question is, if there are negotiations, well, there will be, but if the negotiations go anywhere, will part of the American conditions be a dismantling of the ballistic missile infrastructure?
So that's part of the Israeli request. What the U.S. declares so far is only declaration about the nuclear program. We're trying to make sure that on top of the nuclear request or declaration, there'll be another two declaration. One that deal with the ballistic missiles, and the other deal with the proxies and the terror group that spread all over the Middle East and Africa. So from the Israeli perspective, we want to achieve three-layer of agreement that deal with the nuclear facility, that deal with the ballistic program, and deal with the proxies program. So far from the US, we heard only about the nuclear. But there is an ongoing negotiation, and there are an American and Israeli meeting and speaking about it on a daily basis.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And also, I'm going to say a few words. Please comment on starting this today, literally. We now have hundreds and hundreds of orphans and what's called achim shchulim, younger siblings who are coming to America, participating in Jewish summer camps, participating in FIDF chapters throughout the length and breadth of America. And again, this is something that was a request from the IDF, from the Ministry of Defense, to take these young people out of their context, to get them away with others who are just like them. The advisors, the madrichim themselves, have either lost siblings at war or lost a parent at war. We last year had close to 600 of these young men and young women. It was an incredibly powerful summer. And starting today, there are a number of groups that are coming that will be taking place throughout the length of this summer. If anyone who's participating in this briefing wants to participate, FIDF.org, FIDF.org. And this is a very significant program coming at the request of the IDF and the MOD. Major General Padan, would you want to speak to that program?
Yeah, you're speaking about the legacy program, which is amazing opportunity for orphan to find group, find kind of supporting group and change location from the pressure of what's going on in Israel to the U.S. Kind of take a deep breath, recharge themselves, and also create kind of friendship with another orphan that and another instructor that can understand them, that went through the same kind of hell. And it's amazing to hear from them what those kind of mission, what this program are doing for them. And maybe, you know what, Rabbi, maybe we should, publish the letter we get from the orphan, from the last legacy mission, with all the tanks and the way they describe what they went through when they just, been able to disconnect themselves from the bubble of everything that happened around them in Israel and spend some time in quiet place with amazing opportunity to breathe, to speak, to share what they have on their mind and on their heart, and hopefully reach out themselves and show them hope for the rest of their life and ability and tools to deal with their future. Those young men have all the future in front of them, and this program are helping them go back to track, not only by having fun, but creating tools and creating friendship that will support them over the next year and through the future of building themselves as adult. Yeah, it's an amazing program.
And we're looking forward for them to have a catharsis, a transformational summer, and as the Major General said, to create lifelong relationships with people who are in the exact same state, someone who can appreciate where they're at, people they can open up to. Major General, we want to thank you, and we want to thank all those who are participating today. The reality is, as the Major General said, there are many choppy waters, there are many storm winds ahead. But today, the state of Israel, the people of Israel, and all of humanity is in a much safer place than it was 3 weeks ago. It's a different world today, and hopefully we will continue to make strides in that direction. For all of you who help and support the soldiers, the ones who've been on the front line creating this, we can't thank you enough. We want to wish you a wonderful week.
Thank you.